Hi, this is Jason Nickleby, Assistant Director with the Minnesota State High School League, and this is basketball officiating training tape number 6. We've had 5 so far for credit on arbiter. That deadline has passed, and so these will just be posted on YouTube so anyone can watch those at their convenience. The other 5 are also posted on YouTube if you didn't have a chance to take a look at those. Again, not picking on any one crew or official or team or player, just trying to learn from these plays as we get into the home stretch here into February and into our section tournaments and on to states. So doing a great job. Keep it up, and look forward to connecting next week. So with that, let's take a look at some plays. Okay, on this one, a couple things to take a look at. So we're coming down in transition, and the offense goes right to the basket, right down that lane line. And the first thing to think about or consider with the lead on that side is when we're talking about illegal contact on dribblers relative to an arm bar, displacement, two hands, and so forth. If you see them continue, the ball handler that is, if you see them continue in a straight line to where they intend to go, then contact is not displacing them, and we can probably stay away from that one. So in this particular case, you'll see that number 4, the defender kind of sticks an arm out to meet the offensive player, but never really takes her off course to where she wants to go. So I think the no call here is proper. Now, if she displaces her, pushes her, takes her off course, then this would be the lead's primary since it's in his primary area of responsibility, and he would take that call and the no call in this case. So trails, once this goes away from you down the lane line, we're going to leave it just like the trail does in this case. And then the second piece on this play is ugly is not necessarily illegal. So you see this last shot attempt at the basket, the offensive player is actually losing her balance prior to the shot attempt and hits the floor due to no contact by the defensive player, and we properly no call this one as well. So good judgment on both the arm bar and then not falling for the ugly is a foul situation here at the end. So well done by the crew. Good judgment on the legal contact, but look for arm bars, look for displacement, pushing, taking them off course. If so, we could have a foul in that case. We don't have that here, and they are properly no called. Again, another transition play, so we need to be ready to officiate, and we are as we pick up this traveling violation by the lead here. So, uh, first of all, mechanically, remember we need to officiate our primary coverage responsibilities really hard. Make sure we're on top of those. Defer to our crewmates to make calls or no calls in their area of primary responsibility. Again, when we go out of area, for the most part, we tend to make mistakes. But in this particular case with traveling, we're going to try to defer to the trail many times on a one-on-one matchup because the lead is typically caught up with contact. But in this case, there's no one really around her, so perfectly fine for the lead to pick up this traveling violation. But remember, with traveling, philosophically, if we can put the player off the ground, that gives them more options as far as establishing the pivot foot. If they're clearly in contact with the ground with the pivot foot, then that's the pivot foot, no problem. But in this case, you'll see that when she gathers the basketball, she is off the ground. So she can jump stop, no problem, which she does, jump stops, but then slides the left foot. If you're not going to call that as a traveling violation because you're saying that the right foot is now the pivot foot, also no problem. But then if that's the case, she picks up the right pivot foot and then puts it back down prior to releasing the basketball. So this would be a traveling violation. It's properly called, gains a lot of real estate, and this should be a travel that we call every time. But remember, the biggest thing we're trying to do, pick up the pivot foot. Do they pick it up to start a dribble? If that's a traveling violation. If we pick it up to pass or shoot, no problem, as long as we don't put it back down before completing that action. So in this case, we put it back down before releasing the ball to pass, and this would be a traveling violation we want called, and it is. On this play, we have a traveling violation as well. Real interesting play. I have a lot going on. First, mechanics, perfectly fine that the center would have responsibility for violations and so forth on their side of the lane when we're not involving a secondary defender, which we do involve a secondary defender as it relates to the contact, but since we're talking about the violation, that part would go to the center in this case because she's spinning towards the center on that part of the lane. So this would be the center's responsibility. But let's take a look at this from a traveling perspective. Remember, putting the player off the ground if we can. If not, clear pivot foot. If they pick it up to shoot or pass, like she does here, no problem as long as they don't put it back down. You'll see that when she gathers the basketball, the right foot becomes the pivot foot, and then she picks up the right foot to shoot, but never puts it back down. So this is not a traveling violation because if you see here, right foot is the pivot foot, turns to shoot, never puts the right foot down prior to shooting the basketball. So this is not a traveling violation that we would want called. So with that being the case, you'll notice that if we don't call this, she encounters a secondary grounded defender in the restricted area. Now, if she does get on 2 feet on the ground facing her opponent, she establishes legal guarding position. However, she establishes legal guarding position within the restricted area, initial legal guarding position for the purpose of taking a charge. She remains grounded at the time of contact. So therefore, what we should have on this play is the lead calling a restricted area blocking foul on that defender. So if we don't have the arc, this would be a player control foul in Minnesota because we have the restricted area. This should be a restricted area blocking foul on the defender and not a traveling violation because, again, the right foot was the pivot foot, picked it up to shoot, and never put it back down prior to release. On this one, I want to talk about mechanics and positioning and then just how we handle the play in general at the end. So you see we're in really good position as the center. We're working low beneath this matchup. We can see space, who's responsible for contact or not. And then when the drive goes towards the basket into the lane, the center just, or the new trail in this case, after being the center, just maintains his spot and officiates the matchup in his primary area of responsibility. So this is excellent mechanics. This is what we want to see. And then you see we have the foul that is called by the lead on this dribble drive. And remember, on this side of the paint, anytime we have contact or violation on that side of the paint or contact that involves a secondary defender, the lead would have primary responsibility. So in this case, you'll see that when we go down the paint, she gets past that primary defender and then encounters a secondary defender, and that's who she makes contact with. So this play's responsibility is the lead's, and that's who has the foul call here. Now, he calls the foul on the primary defender who's chasing from behind and plays through the back here, which is the proper call. Definitely a foul, shooting two. So we handled that well. But if that doesn't occur, we have to be prepared to rule on the contact with the secondary defender at the end of this play. And if you notice, she jumps out there out of the arc, so she knows the arc is there, and so she attempts to establish legal guarding position outside the arc, which is good, but we have to see if she establishes that legal guarding position prior to the shooter leaving the ground. And this one's a real tight one, but the foul is on the primary defender who's chasing her. So leads, if that's what we have, let's take a couple steps out onto the court and indicate that the foul is on number 44. This might even be a case where we actually bird dog, and we don't bird dog very often anymore. But it's still a mechanic that we can use, and I think it would help indicate who this foul is actually on, and that it's not a player control foul situation or a block charge situation. So well handled mechanically, position, and then a good call. Let's just step out onto the court, maybe a couple steps to indicate that the foul is on the primary trailing defender versus the secondary defender who tries to take a charge. The trail in this play uses really nice mechanics throughout this play. Just a really good example of what we want to see. So first, we have a steal. He takes a look at the sideline, makes sure that that's clear. Then he makes his way down the court, is in good position, hustles down there to assist. And then you'll see we have a 3-point attempt in transition, and the new lead goes up with the 3-point attempt to indicate that we have a three, and then it goes in, and the trail is the one that signals and the lead drops. So this is excellent mechanics. This is exactly how we want to handle a tough 3-point attempt in transition to provide that assist to the new trail who's not quite there yet to see. And he'll pick up the fact that the new lead has gone up with the three. He signals it's good, and the new lead drops the arm. So excellent mechanics, handled the out of bounds, potential out of bounds very well, hustles, gets in good position, and then very nice help mechanics. This is perfectly done. Okay, we're going to have two sets of plays back to back. They're actually pretty close to each other in time, about 45 seconds, I believe. And I want you to compare the two and just how we judge them and work them. So you see this first play, the dribble drive into the paint, the help defender comes over, secondary defender, so we have that to worry about as the lead, whether they are legal guarding position or have legal guarding position in the restricted area. So we have that to worry about, and then we also have that primary defender that is trying to maintain legal guarding position legally as well. So she moves sideways, backwards towards the basket and maintains legal guarding position legally until she puts her arms into the vertical space of the shooter and just brings them down on top of her, making contact. And so this is a foul we'd want called. She's violating the shooter's verticality. This is in the lead's primary area. Understand that potentially the trail could come get it because it's the outside player, but would prefer that because the lead is mirroring the basketball, they would be able to pick that up. So now you see this is the next one, almost the same exact type action, and we no call it from lead again, but this time the trail calls this one. Now, I believe both are fouls. Definitely violates the verticality. It's the same player, and she comes over and handles this defense the same exact way. And I think just consistency of application, consistency of what your crew is calling, and so forth. Leads, we need to pick both of these up. We'd really prefer that the trail not have to come and get this one. And if we do from trail, which should be really pretty rare, if not ever, we need to take several steps towards the play because if we don't, they think we've called it from a very long distance. We do take a step or two, but we should come a little bit closer. But ultimately, this is leads play, and both of these plays, this player violates the verticality by sticking her arms into the vertical space and making contact with the shooter. And these are both fouls that we wouldn't want called. Okay, mechanics, positioning, and a little bit of judgment on this one. So we initiate a rotation at the outset of this play, and then we're going to have a dribble drive right into the lead's primary area of responsibility, picks up the foul and one. So a couple things when we initiate a rotation or when we're part of a rotation, let's get over there a little quicker, and then let's open up our shoulders to the action so that we're not closing off our vision to everything in our area. But we do a nice job of coming out to mirror the basketball, and then we're stationary at the time of this play. So we do a nice job with that. Um, and you can see that in this replay here that the defender, she does come over and establish legal guarding position initially, but then as the shooter goes into the air, she turns and hip checks her a little bit. So we certainly can support a foul here. Might prefer a little bit more displacement contact, but certainly can support a foul. But I just like our mechanics of getting out wide to mirror the basketball. We're stationary at the time of this action. And I also like that the trail, the new trail that is, does not vacate his position. So you see he stays there and helps officiate the one-on-one matchup to the basket, doesn't turn and run out to the new trail position. He stays there and officiates a active matchup, and that's really well done by the new trail in this case. So just a couple things to clean up. Let's open up our shoulders so that we have the full vision. Make sure that contact is there. There's displacement, and moves her off of a spot. And then thirdly, like our trail mechanics in this particular play. So well done by the crew, both mechanics and positioning wise. And then just think about legal contact and verticality and so forth and how those apply in a play like this one. On this last one, I want to talk about basketball IQ and game awareness. So you see we have 24 seconds to go, two-score game, and we have a quick dribble drive to the basket and a timeout. And it seems simple and it seems obvious, but we really get ourselves in trouble as a crew when we are not aware of the game situation. We don't have basketball IQ, and the trail in this case has excellent basketball IQ and game awareness. As soon as the basket is made, you see here, right here, grants the timeout request because he knows that it's coming, and we don't lose any precious clock time by not awarding the timeout efficiently, quickly. We just do it. This is a superb example of basketball IQ and awareness, and then do a nice job, as you see there in the replay, communicating that it's going to be a full timeout. Good judgment, good positioning by all the officials on this play. No foul here. Good, it's incidental contact, and then we award the timeout. So this is excellent mechanics, excellent positioning by the crew. We're handling our last second shot responsibilities really well, and then we just have the awareness and basketball IQ to understand that the coach is going to want a timeout in a situation like this one. Because we don't give it to them, they're ready to throw it in, and they're gonna lose that opportunity. So, outstanding job by the crew on this play from start to finish. Okay, that will do it for training tape number 6. Several things to consider as it relates to positioning, mechanics, traveling, judgment on verticality, legal guarding position, displacement, um, legal contact of varying kinds. So, several things to consider, talk about in our pre games. We're doing a really nice job. We're getting into that tough time of the season when teams start to get tired, officials start to get tired, coaches start to get tired. So, just hang in there. Um, work with the coaches and players as best you can. Use your tools. Uh, Calm, cool, and collected, and we'll get through this part of the season and into the postseason. So great job. We'll talk to you next week.